Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. I hope you're all having a good day. And if you're not in class, I hope to see you in the next class period. And there might be a huge sense of irony in the fact that I just gave a long winded introduction to a presentation entitled Smart Brevity. But I do think that the subtitle is important. I believe that the idea of making every word count, the idea of omitting needless words, is key to good writing. For a college essay, for an email, for whatever writing it is you're going to have to do. Smart brevity is important. And I think it is a primer to surviving Kallis's class. The title is stolen from this book. It's came out in this month, in fact, and it's the idea that one should say more with less. The authors are people who have founded two news services, and as the founders of these two news services, they have had a lot of feedback about what people want to read and how people want to read and how that level of reading has changed over the past 10, 15 years, and how what they thought they were doing well didn't matter because people weren't consuming the content. People weren't reading. And so they came up with this idea of smart brevity. They put together this book. I hope they don't sue me for throwing all of this stuff up on screen. I hope that my uh, point that we're using it as an educational purpose, uh, and that the book was too new for me to consider for class, saves my butt if they decide to sue me. The goal. You're going to see this quotation all over. I'm going to use it. In the classroom, I'm going to show you a little pen sleeve that says, omit needless words. But William Strunk and E.B. Wright, The Elements of Style, talk about the idea that vigorous writing is concise. No unnecessary words, no unnecessary sentences in the paragraph. Machine shouldn't have any unnecessary parts. Drawing shouldn't have any unnecessary lines. It's the same when one writes. And so we want vigorous writing, we want concise writing, but we want writings that eliminates the unnecessary. This slide discusses this idea of write as you talk, write as if it's a conversation. In an earlier lecture, I quoted someone who talked about if you can write, you can talk. But the fact of the matter is, one has to write in an engaging way, one has to speak in an engaging way. What these what this slide points out is think about your audience. People want to know something new, they want to know something revelatory, they want to know something exciting. And then they want to know why they should care. You don't necessarily have the option about whether to go deeper or not. The assignments are asking you to go deeper. In any class that you write for at Mount Marty, the assignment is always going to ask you to go deeper. But tell me something new, provide a context, explain why it matters. That has to happen no matter what. So write as if it's a conversation. But as you're writing, be precise. And by precise, I mean accurate with spelling, punctuation, all that other stuff. And then work to be concise. I've used the analogy you're not in second grade. You can't tell every detail. Your reader's not in second grade. Your reader doesn't want to hear or read every detail. And I do think it's important to understand that you may never write essays. You may never become a published writer, but all of you may have to write an email. All of you, I can't imagine getting into a job that you won't have to write emails. All of you are on social media. So avoid being meandering, avoid being self centered, be precise, be concise, Again, tell people something new, tell people something exciting, put it in context, explain why it matters. They have a core four. The first element of the core four is called the tease. And for the tease, they say 6 or fewer words, and it could be in the headline or the tweet or the email subject. For the purposes of your essay, consider the tease your title. 6 strong words or fewer. 6 strong words or fewer. And by strong words, I'm talking about concrete nouns. I'm talking about action verbs. No adjectives, no adverbs if you can avoid it. Concrete nouns, action verbs. Also, I'll point out here that he says it's easy to put into practice and easy to teach. I'm trying to teach it. Again, I hope that means that they don't get me in trouble for snapping pictures of their content and putting it on YouTube. I think the lead should be considered your thesis. Can you make it memorable? Can you make it new? Does it give your audience what they want or what they need to know about what's to follow? About what's to follow in this essay. And then make it as short and direct as possible. A muscular tease, okay, with a strong first sentence. The thing that they do in a newsletter that you can't do in your essay is have the tags. You notice on the phone screen why it matters. You don't get to say why it matters. You don't get to do the labeling. But the principle, muscular first sentence with the lead, the tease with the 6 words, those principles are things that you should follow. The context, they're the warrants. They're the question, why does it matter? I've talked about warrants. I've talked about linking all of this data, linking all of this detail to your thesis, linking all of this data, linking it to the lead. It's the same thing. Okay? And you almost always need to explain why the fact, why the idea, why the thought matters. These people do it for a living. These people talk about the fact that most people are too ashamed or too afraid to ask for clarification. It's your job as a writer, it's your job as a communicator to explain why it matters. And then a paragraph tip. And I've got a question mark here. The essays are going to be longer than the articles. If you take a business communication class, the textbook in the business communication class will tell you that email paragraphs should fit on a single screen. I've read hundreds of essays, and I'm going to say 10%, maybe 15% have one huge long paragraph. So, as a general rule of thumb, until I tell you in a comment to change it, think about keeping the paragraphs the size of the phone screen. You'll notice on the example, they basically have 3 bullet points and a longer paragraph. I think for an essay that might work. And again, remember, you don't have the choice to go deeper. Your job is to go deeper. So think about the context, think about why it matters, and explain, explain, explain. But for the paragraphs, I think the idea that it can fit on the phone screen, it should work. And the ultimate goal here, I'm not saying, they're not saying, write short just to be short. What I'm trying to say, and what they say better than I ever could, short, not shallow. Don't oversimplify it. Don't dumb it down. Don't omit the important stuff. Avoid the black and white. Have some nuance. It's okay to shade some gray in there. Heck, it's okay to shade pink and purple in there. But don't make it shallow. Keep it concise. Keep it precise. Short, not shallow. And one of the things we're going to do a lot of in class, the ultimate how-to guide, do more with less. The word a lot doesn't need to be there, or the words a lot don't need to be there. They certainly don't need to be there twice. We're going to be spending a lot of time at the sentence level getting rid of unnecessary words. We're going to go back to the very beginning to the slide about uh, vigorous writing. It's concise. No unnecessary words, just like a drawing has no unnecessary lines, just like a car should have no unnecessary parts. I hope that this is helpful. I don't think this is any different than the chunk paragraph. I don't think this is any different than any of the things that we're going to talk about in class with the paramedic method for sentence level revision and editing. I don't think this is any different than anything you would have been taught before about having a strong thesis, about having the 5 paragraph essay. This is a refinement of all that. And if one of those other things didn't work, I hope there were a few tips in here that do work. Once again, I hope you have a wonderful day. Hope to see you in the next class period.